Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. This time we'll be talking about A Star is Born, also known as the TMS banner. A bit of a weird pick for a banner, but to be honest, well, I prefer an odd pick than an obvious one. If it was not going to be TMS, it was going to be FE7 or FE4 Gen 1 rather. If it's not either of these things, it would have been Fates. So, I mean, at this point I care about TMS just about the same as I did any of these, because FE4 getting good treatment nowadays is a goddamn myth. So, you know. But, yeah, I suppose we should talk about this. Before though, I will say one thing, and that's the fact that the Traven and Itsuki GHB Tempestral tier list update, don't expect it right away, guys. I have machining for the first 3 days of the week, which makes this very hard for me to actually just, you know, work on the video. It is literally 7 AM, and by the time I'm done with this, I'll probably have to go to work, so... Yay! I haven't even slept. Life is constantly busy, but it is what it is. But yeah, the Trevenant and Itsuki banner should be probably at the latest, I want to say Thursday, but that just really depends how much I can even work on this. So yeah, I'm sorry about that. If it's a bit late, it's gonna be a bit late. There's not much I can do about it. Anyway, let's talk about the banner itself. As per usual, I'll go from worst to best. Starting with Eleonora. I can already tell a lot of people are going to be confused as to why it's here. It's more so here because all of the units of this banner are actually at least decent. And Eleonora kind of falls into that category. She's decent. It's just that she's not exactly amazing. Attack speed push 4 is cool, but it's only really good on healers for one. For two, well, how can I put this? In case you don't know, she has competition. If she actually stays as a 5-star exclusive, which she probably will considering the tier 4 skill, well, she has to deal with Legendary Alm. Legendary Alm has basically the same stat line. There is one deciding factor, however, outside of having a better pref than she does, and that's the fact that Legendary Alm is a special. They actually decided to give him a special, and now we're in an Iris situation. If you're a colorless bow that does not have a weapon that gives you like a very strong niche, chances are that Alm is just going to be better. 37-37 is insanely good, so actually having something slightly better like 37-38 with a super boon in attack, something that Alm doesn't have, just doesn't cut it. Sure, you get like an extra 1 attack over Alm, but Lunar Arc, I think that's the one. It's either Lunar Arc. I keep confusing the bow with the special. Lunar Flash. There we go. Lunar Flash is kind of just really good. It's Ragnall Astro levels of good. So the fact that Eleonora does not have a special to just unleash is kind of the main problem here. Now, the weapon also has a typo in the trailer. What the bow actually does in reality is a fire sweep effect if you have more speed than the enemy. And if it does indeed work in the same manner as a sweep skill does, it should, in theory, it should essentially just take in-combat buffs in question as well. So, you know, Brazens, so Sparrow 3, skills like this will be taken in consideration, which makes sense because she comes with attack speed push 4 and not life and death 4. Still, Eleonora is odd. Fire Sweep is okay, but in case you have not realized by then, Fire Sweep is not exactly a bow that's used a whole lot anymore. It used to be used a lot, but now most of the time when it's used on a cav unit with double Poison Strike in Aether raids. And yes, she can actually pull that off quite well, but the fact that she's limited in range is kind of a bad thing. Not only that, well, that's kind of all she's got. A Fire Sweep bow with a bit more speed and attack attached to it. Well, if you even have enough speed to proc it, which is at least semi-consistent. It's not exactly a whole lot. If you really want Fire Sweep, you can actually use that on Ulm. And unlike Eleonora, you can just be like Flashing Blade and just hit and proc Lunar Flash. Yeah. Shocking no one, here's the comparison. As you can see, there's basically no difference. You'll want to go attack plus on Eleonora, the same as Legendary Ulm. The difference here is that Eleonora will have one more attack than Ulm. But the thing is, if you're considering like, oh hey, that means that she has better stat overall. And yeah, she has better stat. The problem is not stats, it's moveset. At the end of the day, say both of them were using Brave Bow. Well, if Ulm did not have a special, then yes, you could actually make a case that Eleonora has something up her sleeve. The problem is, if you consider the fact that Brave Bow can be comboed into Flashing Blade with Life and Death 4, then you kind of realize that you can just hit proc, get hit, hit proc. Yeah. And Moonbow compared to Lunar Flash is just worse. That's kind of just how it is. Every single set, every single one of them that Eleonora can do, Ulm kind of just can do better. Even the Fire Sweep set. If you just run Fire Sweep on Ulm, you can just hit proc and you'll do more damage than she does, despite the fact that you're behind by 3 points of attack. The only thing you can really do is just really just go all in on the Fire Sweep effect and hope for the best. AKA basically go with the fact that you have a Fire Sweep that actually allows you to hit back on enemy phase. Here's a few examples. Set on the right is really obvious, that's the Aether Raids Poison Strike set. Panic Smoke is a bit better here. Because Panic Smoke will... Because this is a set you'll be typically using in Aether defense. So, you know, inflicting as much HP damage as you can is actually quite good. 71 attack on top of it is quite helpful. And, well, you know, having access to Dragon Fang is very helpful on the set on the left. On the set on the right, though, you're better off with Moonbow. I suppose that's kind of my bad here. I forgot to switch that. But yeah, Panic Smoke is better because in Aether Raids defense, people still use buffs. So Panic Smoke can be extremely frustrating to deal with. Say they're using their tank, and their tank is a Legendary Tiki, and they have like +6 across the board. Well, that's -12 across the board because you're basically taking those bonus and making them penalties. And they lose 20 health, making it very annoying and frustrating to go through. Set on the left is a more aggressive set. It's more or less a variation on the set on the right. This is just essentially to... Special Spiral gives you 2 charge. You hit, and then you proc with Dragon Fang. This does a good chunk of damage, and kind of makes up for the fact that you don't have Lunar Flash to some extent. It's a very straightforward unit overall. If you're going to stray in any way out of her pref, don't bother with the unit. That's as simple as it is. Alm is just better at everything else. And I don't think that's gonna change, because the idiot at IS decided to give him a really busted pref with a really busted special. Honestly, even if the special wasn't there, Alm would still be the best bow unit as far as... well, not the best one. Leaf is a strong contender, but still, you get the point. Next up is Memori. Wow, get it? Because Memoru means to protect in Japanese. Oh boy, and that's why Drog is her persona. Yeah, that's Drog, by the way, in case you couldn't tell. Oh, and of course, if you couldn't tell, that's Varian. Yup, that's fucking Varian. But yeah, that's Drog. You know, the protector. The dude that will literally just take a bullet for his friends. Man. He really just wanted to get that pun in. Shield Session! One of the most... what the fuck is this skill anyway? Oh my god, I hate that skill. It's so... why though? If foe initiates combat, so basically this is a steady stance kind of skill. It does nothing on player phase. Grants bonus to units' def res during combat equals to 9 minus number of foes who have already acted, times 3. First off, that should be times 2, not 3. If it's times 3, you just have someone rallying, and it's suddenly worse than Fortress def res in every way, shape, or form. If there's 2 people rallying, well, it's just a trash skill then. It's awful. But that's kind of the problem with session skill in general. They're really not good. Now, the Mirage Axe has been typically really referenced with the the Thunderous Armads, or Thunder Armads from the legendary alt of Hector. And yeah, that sounds about right. It's basically an easier condition. Instead of being required to have, I believe, more or equal amount of units to basically prevent doubles. Instead of this, you basically just need one person, and there you go. Not to mention, Mirage's Axe also provides you 6 def and res, and 3 points of res because def is our higher stat. Now, this is all cool and good, but, well... man, I've never seen that stat line before. Oh boy, it's literally Surtur without a good pref. Oh fuck, why? As far as comparing Legendary Hector to this new thing, she's actually better than Hector. Very much so, in fact. Even able to ploy, which is also very good. Her speed is actually salvageable, and that's definitely worth mentioning until you realize that we just got, like, I think last month, Winter Sophis, and Winter Sophis actually has Serious and Special Fighter, which is just much better overall. I do think she's still worth using, but overall it's very iffy. The main reason you'll use her is just because she hits really high stats. And that's basically it. She's an alright unit, not exactly something I would go for. As far as builds are concerned, well, this should be very easy. And also, I do want to point out, this is the stat line that, like, all of the Axe unit have. Low speed, good attack, good def, and like average res. Every single time. But yeah. Set on the right is very easy. You end up with 52 def and 54 res, and because of the weapon, that jumps up to 5860. Bond skills do synergize with the weapon quite well, so there's that. You also end up with 68 attack, which, shockingly enough, is good. I know, shocker, right? At that point, you really want Vengeful Fighter, though, because your speed is not going to be good enough unless you go Speed Plus. As for the set on the left, this is the speedier set. With Speed Ploy, you can be fine to some extent, especially if you have 5 Dragon Flowers. That said, it's a bit iffy, so having a bond is a good way to fall back on something. You can also use Attack Ploy if you feel confident enough. But yeah, it's an armored unit. There's not a whole lot of ways to build them, so, you know. Let's move on. There's also, as I said, if you're comparing her to Winter Sophis, please don't. Winter Sophis is just absolutely better. Sirius is busted, and very easy to proc, and does good damage. There's just no way about it. It's actually absolutely amazing. And this is just worse. Especially since Sophis actually has a prep that gives her 5 across the board. As long as she's over half HP, which is quite easy when you have skills like Sirius in your arsenal. Anyway, I don't think I'll stay on Memory for too long. Let's move on to Tsubasa. Now we're actually talking about the good units of the banner. Blade Session is pretty worthless. Same problem as Shield Session. That said, it's a bit better in the sense that if you... It's something that's more in your control, basically. It's Swift Sparrow with extra steps. That's the problem. If you don't have 2 people that have already acted, it's not very helpful. Honestly, Blade Session should be replaced 9 times out of 10. So Sparrow and attack speed bond 4 is just more consistent overall. The entire kit here is just very iffy. I don't understand why all of this is here. You'd think that for the star of the banner, no pun intended, for the star of the banner, you'd expect her to have something better than Chill's speed and own flyers. For God's sake, why? Still, honestly, at first I was pretty apprehensive, and then I kind of realized that the weapon kind of makes her fairly solid. In a lot of cases, you tend to compare, you know, Est to most units. Well, you can actually make quite a good comparison in Tsubasa's favor compared to Est. One reason and one reason alone on this one, and that's the fact that, yeah, she's behind in attack, so what? 32 attack with attack plus is 35. Est has 38 with attack plus. Okay. Est has 19 might on her weapon, which pushes that to 57, and is luck to flyer teams. Whereas Tsubasa has 35 plus 22, which equals to 57. Man, Tsubasa has the same attack as an Est. Now, there's a fair point here that Tsubasa does not have a brave weapon like Est. That said, a weapon is basically for SETI, which works in a very similar way. Unless the enemy has something like Wary Fighter, this is actually quite effective. In fact, if you're dealing with anything that you double, you'll typically be able to kill them off. If you double something such as, oh, I don't know, Sophis, she's dead. Winter Sophis, actually both Sophis. She also kills Altina fairly consistently, and the best part is that she works in any team. She really just needs attack tactic, and to some extent speed tactic for certain units. Though typically her natural speed will be more than enough as is. And if you really think that you'll need more than this, you can just use Blaze Session. It's not an amazing skill, but it can help in a pinch if you don't have anything better, basically. Tsubasa is remarkable, honestly. That stat line is quite good. It's very reminiscent to a Tsubaki, but a Tsubaki with more options. And with an attack stat. You can actually feel the 167 BST at work here. Marriage Fetter is very good. I just wish the effectiveness was something like Beast and Armors, or Beast and Infantry, or really anything that's a bit more interesting than whatever this is. Armor and Cav Killer at the same time, like, come on, this is like the 15th unit that has something like this. Please stop. It's just boring at this point. That said, at least the second effect is actually quite good. Marriage Fetter is like the only pref of the banner that feels like an actual Gen 4 pref. Seriously. When you look at Larce's pref and you look at it side by side with Korea, you're like, wait, what? It's pretty funny. Still, let's talk about comparison, shall we? So Naga is a very easy no-brainer here. That said, you have to realize one thing about Naga. Her weapon gives +3 attack, so in reality she has 49 attack, while Tsubasa has 48. Tsubasa activates a weapon, that's 54, and Naga will just activate with like 1 or 2 characters and will either tie or either be a bit under or a bit over. Naga is a very excellent unit. In fact, she's extremely similar to Tsubasa here, in more ways than one. The one thing that separates the two of them is the fact that Tsubasa, if you go Res Plus, with one of the set I will showcase later, can be quite good with ploys. In fact, she'll be a bit better than Est at ploying, while still remaining competitive in terms of damage. In fact, beating her in a lot of ways. Unless you go, Res Plus on Est. But the thing is, if you do that, you kind of just realize one problem with Est, and that's the fact that since she's flyer reliant, she's typically in a gold flyer team anyway. And because she's stuck in a gold flyer team, it kind of makes having ploys a bit redundant. You'd rather have a gold on her so other flyer units are at full potential. Tsubasa, as I said, works in any team. That's her big thing. Naga also works in every team, and she's quite adept at it. And also hits, res, which is definitely helpful. That said, I'm gonna be honest here and say this. Tsubasa requires less positioning, is a lot easier to work around, and the armor killer, while not absolutely amazing, can be coming into a clutch as far as arena is concerned. Also, the Brave-like effect is actually extremely helpful. If Naga has to deal with Altina, Altina will typically just absolutely destroy her, which means that Naga won't get the kill, whereas Tsubasa would because of the Reaver's Desperation effect. Keep in mind that her Desperation effect is basically Desperation 4. It's not like Forseti where you have to be at 50% or more. It's not like Desperation where you have to be at 75% or more. It's as long as at least one person of your party has acted, you basically have a Desperation effect on you, which is insane. This effect is really good and just requires basically no setup. And the fact that it requires no setup is what makes it so good. Hell, if you want to, you can actually combo it into Brazens. Personally, I don't have a single set that does do that, but it's worth mentioning all the same. Especially if stuff like Brazen Def Res ever becomes a seal, because then with Def Plus and buffs you can just push your Def and Res to 54 on both for free. Honestly, Tsubasa is insane, but, well, it's kind of a bit odd at the same time, because a lot of units that she compares with tends to be 3 to 4 stars, mostly Katria and Est. While she does compare to them pretty extensively, the other two are free. But like I said, the main draw of Tsubasa is the fact that she works in any team comp, something that Est and Katria just does not do. The only other character that can actually compare to some extent is Cordelia. However, Cordelia is still kind of, well, it depends, you know. Tsubasa's weapon is a lot more consistent, a lot easier to work with, whereas Katria's weapon can be a bit iffy at times. That said, I do think Cordelia's weapon is insane. It's just that because it's 14 might instead of 22 might, counting the 4 might from the weapon, Tsubasa has an easier time proccing Heavy Blade or any such skills. Or just killing in general. 22 might is a lot, no matter how you look at it. And the fact that Cordelia's 3 more attack does not matter. At the end of the day, Tsubasa ends up with 5 more might. This can make the difference in certain matchups. So yeah, let's talk about build, shall we? Now the build on the left is more emphasizing just overall bulk. Def Plus is a really good boon on her because it's a super boon and actually pushes her bulk to 40-40. With Attack Res Bond 4 as well as Attack Def Bond 3, you're basically at 45 defense and 47 res. This makes you really hard to kill and actually emphasize another thing that's amazing about Tsubasa, which is her bulk. Her bulk is really good. If you've seen my New Year Guntra in action, this is quite similar to this. Honestly, I just really wish that Heart's Blade had a lens variant, because if it was indeed a thing, oh boy, you just know I would love to be using this on her. Still, if you use aerobatics on top of Attack Res Bond, it's actually quite good. Keep that in mind, but you can just basically move a unit forward toward the unit so you can aerobatic from the unit into the other unit. This will mean that a unit will have already taken action, and because a unit has taken action, you get the 6 attack and speed on initiation and the desperation effect. That's pretty good. And on top of this, it allows you to reach places you would not be exactly able to reach otherwise, which is another good point. This set also pushes her attack to, well, 76. 76 with effectively a brave weapon outside of Wary Fighter or stuff that prevents follow-up like Mur's weapon, which wouldn't because Mur is too slow. It's kind of insane. Even against the green at that point, you're still at 62 attack. 61, sorry. Which is, again, still insane. Iceberg is only there so you basically just, you know, kill in 2 hits, and then the next fight you basically hit and then proc Iceberg. It's a good way to go about it. Set on the right instead is relying on a Slaying Lance. It's very similar, but it allows you to run Bonfire at 2 cooldown. Why is that important, you may ask? Brave Lucina. Shocking nobody, right? Brave Lucina with Slaying Lance right here would basically mean that you'd be at 49-47. Brave Lucina pushes your def to 52 and your res to 50. And the second you get hit, you instantly proc Bonfire for an extra 26 damage. And again, need I remind you, you're basically at 70 attack. Yeah, it's quite good, as I said. 70 attack with an extra 26 damage proc from Bonfire is quite solid. So, yeah. Moving on to Tsubasa build 2, which would be these ones. Now, this is the ones where you would want to use Res Plus for. With Res Plus, you have enough Res to actually deploy semi-consistently. Though, I will definitely say if you decide to actually go with Res Plus, you really want to use Dragon Flowers on her. It's going to make a hell of a difference. Because 37 to 38 means that certain units like Surtur won't get deployed, whereas this will allow you to deploy such unit as Surtur. Unless they're also Dragon Flowered, but honestly, I have not seen that many Dragon Flowered Surtur. So, I mean, it's still a solid option. So, set on the right is using Gale Force. If you're using Gale Force, you'll have to be using Heavy Blade. Still, since you're going to be using Mirage Feather with this, you're at 70 attack the second someone attacks. So Heavy Blade is not that hard to proc. A lot of people are looking at her attack and thinking, man, she hits like a wet noodle, why would I ever use this? And then completely miss the part where the fact that the pref is 22 might, basically. It happens all the time. Keep in mind, by the way, Aerobatics is basically best in slot for her because that combos into bonds very well. But if you plan on using her in a flyer team, like a flyer ward team, that's fine. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. Just use flyer formation instead. But yeah, with good old Res Plus, you can actually deploy pretty consistently, which means, well, it's 5 more damage. If you aerobatics with sturdy impact and attack res bond, you're basically looking at 74 attack. Once Marriage Feather procs, you're at 80 attack. So yeah, if they're deployed, that's insane. You'll typically be absolutely demolishing them with this. Honestly, even if the unit isn't armored, it won't matter too much. If the unit is armored, they better be green because otherwise they're dead. It's just that dangerous. Even if you're dealing with just a blue, you're basically up to 120 attack against an armored unit. In other words, even if they have 50 defense, you deal 70 damage per hit. So yeah. Very strong unit. Very, very strong unit. The only problem is for the Gale Force set, and that's kind of why I did not rely on Gale Force, like 100% Gale Force, is the fact that she does so much damage. The effectiveness can also play against her if you're using Gale Force, because you might do too much damage and one-shot the enemy. If the enemy is armored, you might just one-shot them anyway, so you won't be able to set up Gale Force as easily as you'd like. But well, it kind of is what it is. Oh, and by the way, if it's not obvious, the persona that she has is Sita. Shocking, I know. Anyway, let's move on to Kyria, who has Tharja as a persona. So, yeah. Kyria was a character I was not expecting to be this good when I was seeing the stat at first. But boy oh boy is she actually a lot better than I expected. Low attack res, haha, Reinhardt.joke.jpg, oh boy. Mirage Rod is such a missed opportunity. And now that you've heard me say this, you'll know that I'm not going to be very much using that weapon at all. There is only one set out of 4 that's going to be using that pref. You know, I don't know if IS kind of just fails to realize what made Tarja's axe so good, what made Gordon's bow so good. It's not the fact that it just is like a fucking, you know, debuff at 2 range. No, that's good, but it's good as a secondary effect. The reason why Tarja's Tome is so good is not because it does -4 attack and speed to anything around, like, within 2 space of her that is a foe. No, it's because she has a Blade Tome that does not have cooldown +1, and on top of this, the attack and speed debuff. If you're going to make a weapon based on this, you kind of want to have a different effect on top of it. If it's just one effect, it's kind of redundant. Man, I hit hard, now I hit harder. Like, a good example would have been if you're going with this, put guard as the base effect. Like a guard that works up to 50% health. That's it. That's all you really needed. And on top of this would have made her a better tank. But, you know, it is kind of what it is. Let's talk comparison now. So, Ewan aside, let's talk about Henry. Henry is unfortunate. That said, Henry has a better pref than Kyria. Henry's pref basically does the same debuffs. However, it does also gives him guard, which makes him a better tank overall. That said, the Raven Tome effect that he has is kind of redundant, and you typically will not be using, well, Kyria's base weapon. Thankfully, you know, mages have really good weapon. Fox Tomes especially are busted, as you'll soon see, as well as Blade Tomes, which Blade Tome with a base of 41 attack is, surprising no one when I'm saying this, very good. When you break the 100 attack stat, it tends to be because the unit's good, shockingly enough. Honestly, I completely forgot, actually. Not almost. I completely forgot to also add a set for Kyria that would be just her with Vantage, Res Smoke, and a Blade Tome. Oh well. That is my bad. Still, Henry is a bit of a slightly better tank purely because of guard. That said, that's really the only thing you can say, because at the end of the day, well, you don't really use Kyria as a tank. If you really want to abuse her, you want speed plus. And I know what you guys are going to say. What the fuck, Jay? Why? She has like no speed! But you see, that's the thing. Foxdome are just that good. Let's talk about this. After this wave, though. So set on the left is the only one that I actually suggest using Marriage Rod for. The main issue that this has is the fact that you have basically no player phase. That said, on enemy phase, you are a huge threat. You're basically looking at 44 defense and 44 res. But because of Marriage Rod, this jumps up to 50 def and res, which is really good. If you employ the enemy, that's 55-55 also. Which, again, very good. Your attack is at 72, with attack def bond that jumps up to 77. And with Mirage Rod, this jumps up to 83. And that's without a Blade Tome. With a Blade Tome, you can add an extra 18 to that. It's pretty disgusting. With a Blade Tome, you hit 101 attack, I believe. Still, this set is really good because with Iceberg, you basically just get hit and then just proc 22 damage. It's just free damage. And with the whole power of, you know, what is this, 83 attack behind you? Yeah, you tend to just one-shot the enemy. As for the set on the right, it's a Blade Tome set. It's quite simple at this point. I don't think I have to explain it too much. But you're at 33 speed, 7 from Swispero, 4 from Swispero, 2 Seal, 3 from blow attack speed, and oh, look at that, you're basically at 48 speed. This also pushes your attack by quite a good margin. Swispero and Swispero basically mean that you're going to be at, wait, what is that, 74 attack? And Blade Tome pushes that to 98. So yeah, pretty good. 98 attack, 48 speed. Yeah, that sounds pretty disgusting to deal with. Whenever Steady Blow ever becomes a seal, which is speed and def, this is actually going to be a slightly better choice than Swispero. Because at that point, Kyria has so much attack, might as well make her a bit bulkier. As for the second page of set, this is the ones with Fox Tomes. Now, the set on the right is just a bit more simple. These are mixed set, by the way. Or actually, no, the set on the right is a mixed phase set. This is without close counter, mind you, which is kind of a problem, but close counter is a bit awkward to work with her. Essentially, Radar Fox, attack speed solo, and steady posture are really good together. What it basically means is because of attack speed solo and low attack speed, you're basically looking at 44 speed. On initiation, the Fox Dome will reduce 4 speed from your enemy's side, so you'll jump to 48 speed. And if you get hit, steady posture will then proc, which means another 4 speed for you. So you have 48 speed on initiation and 48 speed on defense. This is kind of insane. If you have to deal with anything that's range, that's really good. Because on top of this, you end up with 43 def. Either way, as well as 48 res on initiation, 44 res on defense. Your attack, however, is basically sitting at 69. On initiation, it jumps up to 73 and stays at 69 on enemy phase. Keep in mind you can use Rest Ploy if you think that your attack is a bit too low. That's one of the things with Kyria. She is extremely versatile. However, she is also not exactly cheap. As for the set on the left, this is definitely a more aggressive set. You kind of want attack speed solo still, because then you can have some recourse on enemy phase. 41 speed is not perfect, but it's at least something. On initiation, however, you're basically looking at, well, 49 speed. Special Spiral is here with... Why the hell do you have Moonbow? Oh, I think I fucked up on this one. My bad. It's meant to be Glacies. The idea is so that you just get hit, and proc Glacies as a result, and can just chain this forever. That is, if you don't just one-shot. Which is very possible, because Kyria hits like a truck. With this set in particular, you're looking at 77 attack. That's not exactly easy to tank. But then if you have 77 attack with a simple Glacies proc with, you know, 35 damage behind it, it tends to hit a bit hard, doesn't it? Yeah. That's the thing with Kyria. That's literally the main thing with Kyria. She hits really hard and her speed can be workable with a lot of investment. That said, if you don't go for the plus 10, the speed can be a bit awkward. That said, at plus 3 or plus 4, you're still fine. The main thing is getting the speed boon. After this, you're pretty much fine. She's not going to be amazing in A for Raid, though, keep that in mind, because in A for Raid, red units are not exactly fantastic unless they're Gale Force units. Still, while she's not amazing, she's still a solid unit all around. So, yeah. I think I've said all about today. I think I've said about all I had to say about these units. Honestly, I'm fine with TMS. They're not. TMS to me is very harmless. I don't mind seeing this in this game. If it's a way for them to advertise it, then so be it. I do find it weird though why Yashiro was not added, considering Yashiro is probably the best song of TMS. But for some reason it was not added. Yeah. Yashiro looks a lot like Monsoon from Metal Gear Rising. At least in his Carnage form. And his persona is Navarre. And Navarre looks actually quite badass in TMS. Oh well. Maybe we'll get a second banner. I mean, at the end of the day, we can get a Tiki alt. Yes, a Tiki alt. Because there's an idol version of Tiki in that game. Then there's also Maiko, and then there's Kane. Or, I don't remember his name actually. Kane is his persona. But, yeah. I don't remember what persona Maiko had. But, yeah. All three of these could be the next, you know, TMS banner if we ever get one. Would be odd. But honestly, I don't mind it. There's definitely worse out there. I mean, a Style Spring exists after all. But yeah. Reminder that I won't be able to just release Itsuki's review right away. Just know one thing, he's quite good. He's quite good. And with that said, I'll just leave it there. I'll try to go as in depth as I can for Itsuki when I'll make a banner review. When I'll do the GHB Tempest Trial tier list update with him and Traven in mind. And with that said, have a good rest of the day, everyone. I'll see you all later.